Fear is a little bit good. I really noticed after I got bucked off my horse that I became so afraid of just kind of everything. It seemed almost ridiculous. And when I would stop and take a step back and think about it and process it, then I could get my head back. But really being afraid of being afraid, like, oh my gosh, what if I get up there and then I'm afraid? What if I get up and I get nervous and he feels afraid and then he, Okay, so fearless. I don't think we touched on this yet. Ever see anyone who you think is fearless? Right? There's no such thing, okay? I was watching one of those YouTube videos of the guy who jumps off the cliff that's like, 3 miles up and flies down in that silly suit, which actually looks just so cool, right? I mean, it's something that, like, I almost have to run to the bathroom just watching it, okay? And he's doing it, and he gets to the bottom, and they interview him, and he's like, man, was I scared. And I was like, what? He was scared. But he did it anyway because he had a certain length of things that he could do that he felt prepared him for it, right? So he was a risk taker, but he was gutsy, he was prepared, he had experience and confidence that he could do it, right? Kind of like your first, canter. You're like, okay, well, let's see. I've been trotting for a while. I've watched a lot of people canter. My horse once kind of broke into the canter without me asking for it. And now I'm going to go ahead and canter. And you kind of like, okay, here we go. And you do it anyway, right? Okay, that's not called being fearless. You probably were a little bit afraid, but you did it anyway because you felt prepared enough to do it. Does that make sense? So just because you're not fearless doesn't mean that you can't ever be brave. So as we get more and more afraid, do you notice how it gets worse and worse instead of better and better? Kind of like what you just touched on? Yeah. Okay, and then you'll be walking your horse and a leaf will blow and you'll jump and your horse will spook and get away, right? And you're like, damn leaf. Okay, so here's where, to me, everything starts at a thought. Some people think that it starts at a feeling, but really I'm going to argue that everything begins with a thought. Okay? Think it, feel it, say it, do it. So I think that everything is triggered by a thought. Okay? And then that thought, whatever it is, produces an emotion. So you think, I'm on my horse, everything's good, you're thinking good thoughts, and then all of a sudden this little tiny ugly thought creeps in and goes, hey, ha, 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 ha. Remember when you broke your back? Right? And that's a thought. And then it creates an emotion, which is upset, tense, da 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 da. And then you start saying, oh my God, what if I break my back again? And then because everything's gotten all tense already, then you do something silly or ineffective or unfair or wrong. And then you can end up in trouble, right? Does that make sense? Is everyone buying this? Of course I'm selling it. That'll be $250, please. Anybody not buying it? Anybody need help with this? Okay, so the reason why this is important is because for you guys to impact your relationship with fear, the place to start is with your thoughts. Okay, does that make sense? Okay, so thinking is not as mindless as we think. But it's really not. It's really not, because our thoughts are so given to us. We don't even think to think, right? I mean, it gets a little silly, but it's so true. Now, what happens when we have negative thoughts is that usually this is what happens. Okay, so don't be afraid. How's that work? Right? Don't think about getting bucked off. Right? I'm going to show you how we're going to do a tiny little experiment. Our minds do not use the word not. We can't edit the word not, okay? So, do not, I'm telling you, do not think about pink elephants. And what's everybody thinking about? Pink elephant. Is it Dumbo? Does it have wings? Right? Okay, so when someone says, hey, just don't think about that. Don't worry. This will not hurt a bit. As I come at you with a very large needle. Right? Okay, so, but we do this all the time because.
$250?
And that was $250. That was $350 because you argued. Right? So our minds can't edit the word not. We can't use that word effectively. So that's one place to start, is to talk to yourself. When you're talking to yourself and creating your thinking, do not use the word not.